Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to Drawing Down the Dragon. I'm Snappy, and thank you for joining me on such a lovely day. And I'm joined today by my dear friend, Leslie Selene. How's it going, Leslie?
Good, how you doing?
Life is wonderful. Happy to be here with you. You've been joining us lately on Occult Explorers, but I wanted to have you back on to do a personal talk just because you've been going through such a cool thing and you have such a unique perspective. You recently moved to Greece
I
and
did.
are inspired by the muses. So tell us about how's Greece? What's it like living in Crete? It's wild.
Well, we just got here, and I just hear and obey, and I follow the pendulum, and I don't even visualize anymore. I don't say what I want
Right,
because what my spirits want for me is so much better than anything I could possibly imagine
right.
that I just let go and let them work.
You just let go and
And
let them work.
even the pendulum wouldn't even take me to another part of Crete. It
Right.
was just really zeroed in, and I felt this insistence, like time to go, time to go, time to go, and I don't know why, but when it's like that, I just hear and obey, and so
Right.
we left 2 weeks before Mexico broke out in basically a civil war
Right.
situation, and so me, 6 suitcases, two cats, and Mr. Magoo in
Wow.
airports and craziness, and I had arranged for this place beforehand, just because the cats and dad, they don't like to move a bunch, and so it's better to take something sight unseen than get here and look around, and so just miracle basically found this place, no idea where I'm going. I know it's a small town that is quiet, and I know it's in southwest Crete. I googled around there. There's a Minoan city about half hour away. Haven't been there yet. So there's ruins, there's the beach, there's the gorge, which is full of food. There's wild asparagus and nettles and all kinds of edible plants in there. And yeah, so I did. There's a couple of pictures. The post box one.
Yeah, I'll bring that up here. So we gotta, let me
This is the
see.
first thing I see when I get out of the taxi at night. Is the next one. This. And we land here. The taxi drops us. I don't know where we're going. The landlord put beds in, and also, I was unsure about this place. I was like, it's a ways out from the town with the grocery store, and then the lady said, "Well, when you decide, just call Artemis." I say, "Excuse me," and it turns out it's a man's name here,
Right, you were
but
telling me this.
just in case I was confused about who I work for, I'm going to be paying my rent to Artemis every month. And so the post box, I don't know if you can see it, but there's an anti-fascist sticker right on it, and then
Right.
a couple more. And I'm like, oh goody, I'm in the right place. And then the next photo is what I see when I walk in through the gate, and the patio looks out onto
Oh,
this. This is the
wow.
Libyan Sea.
That's so beautiful. The Libyan
Yeah,
Sea. Wow.
yeah. And and so this is where Artemis led me. And
Incredible. You made it, you made your way to Crete, and you know it's a safe space when they got anti-fascisti.
okay.
Right there. Absolutely love that. That's such a wild sign. Yeah, I love it. Oh, what a cute little place with your
Yeah.
landlord Artemis. Like you can't make this stuff up. And then I know you were posting pictures. You were showing that one of your neighbors came and brought you tomatoes and other fresh
Yeah,
produce.
well, it's a lot of little Mediterranean towns are like this. Nobody locks their doors. Um, People aren't super chatty, but they bring by things from their garden, and I have a neighbor who has a tomato farm, and another neighbor who's the butcher in town. So they always bring home extras and deliver them to the neighbors, especially the new one, and it's just super nice. Even the
Right.
cats are nice to my cats, the local cats.
Oh, that's
Everybody's
fun.
really sweet.
Right. That's
Yeah.
so beautiful. I'm so happy for you. And your dad's
Yeah.
taking well to it?
Yeah. Well, he's got Alzheimer's, so he's up for 48 hours, and then he'll sleep for a couple weeks, and then he'll be up for 48 hours again. So he's had a couple cycles.
Oh, wow. That's intense.
Yeah, it is.
Oh,
But I was a
man.
single mom, so it's
Right.
pretty much the same. My parents were even more neurodivergent than me, and so I've been a caregiver all my life. I had 10 years in the middle there, when my son moved out and before my dad moved in, where I wasn't caring for anyone but myself, and I can't say I was happier. Uh,
Hmm.
I I did start writing novels then. I did have time to get menopause and freak out and start writing novels. And so that's the other picture I had, was that was the
Right.
novel I wrote uh
Oops.
when
There
when
you go.
menopause came, the one before that, and it turned into a trilogy. And at the time it was quite shocking even to me, because it's violent and it's sexually explicit. Uh, but some of it didn't make sense until 2026.
What do you mean?
There are elements in there that I couldn't have known that are happening now.
Like, can you give us an example or a bit of
Well, the
an
second
idea?
book is called Children of Samaran, and it's about sex trafficking rings being
Oh,
exposed.
man.
Yeah.
That kind of dark. Wow.
Yeah. And
That's wild.
so I I knew I couldn't have been the only one who was experiencing murderous rage, to whom that was foreign. Like, I don't have that.
Hmm.
But it
You're
was
channeling
very
that.
specific. I had a specific desire to assassinate political leaders, right? And and I keep a diary, and basically something else took over my diary. It
Oh,
and
wow.
so it just reads like it's still my diary, only I'm an assassin.
Okay. Wow. That's okay. Unpack more of this. So, what is this story really about? And was this another inspired story in the way that Numa was inspired, or?
Oh yeah, I didn't know what was happening.
Hmm.
And it was 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. every night. And I didn't know what was going to happen next, ever. And it came out in, like, it's in three act. Each book is three acts of exactly 50 pages each. And there's a plot that I did not write an outline for. And there's parts of myself that I didn't know existed. And I mean, it starts out with the onset of menopause, where the maternal instinct goes away.
Right.
And that's very disorienting, especially, like, I'm a single mom. I'm a massage therapist. I'm totally identified as being a nurturer. And and at first it's like you see the world in black and white for a minute there, like all the color trades out of. And and then it gradually comes back. But being estrogen identified is not going to last.
Hmm.
It won't. And who am I without my estrogen? Well, this other thing comes in, right? Where all of a sudden your grandma sitting in a rocking chair on the porch with a shotgun waiting for a reason to use it. Yeah. You
Right.
turn into the protector, the crone, and it's different. Yeah, it's different,
Right. It's an
and it's
evolution.
tough love. Yeah,
Hmm.
if I hear a young person about to say something that could ruin their life if they say it, you know, like
Hmm.
they could in the future, especially online, you know, everything you say online is permanent, my friends.
Right.
And it can be used to deny you admission to a university later. It can be used to deny you gainful employment in any industry. And so, old ladies, you can't expect us to be gentle. We're going to shut you down to save your ass. And we don't need to look good. We don't need anybody to like us. We certainly don't need anyone's approval. And so, it's like that.
Wild, wild. So tell me a bit about the plot of the story then. You mentioned it's like this, what's going on in the novel here in the Dream Network?
Well, so first there's the identity thing,
Hmm.
and then the dreams start becoming vivid.
Hmm.
I start having lucid dreams and connecting with other witches in the
Okay.
dreams and plotting. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah.
And have you
And
been, go ahead,
we're
sorry.
gonna make a safer world, and nobody has to like us, and nobody has to thank us, but that's what we're
That's beautiful. I love that. I love that.
doing.
And
And so it's a
wow,
bunch of retired yoga teachers, right?
going out to go
and
defeat a
and
sex
then
trafficking network.
yeah, she has to learn how to shoot. She has to learn how to fly. Yeah.
Wild. That's brave. That's amazing. That sounds like quite the journey. And can people get this one online? Is this one available like on Amazon
Well,
or?
it was on Amazon, but
Mm,
I just checked and it's not on there anymore. So you can just send me an email and I will send you an e-copy of all three books if you want them. Um, it was very when I first wrote it, it was only very satisfying to very few people. Everybody else
right.
was like, "Whoa, what the fuck?" And especially like Leslie, I didn't know, and but now it's really satisfying to at least read a story where somebody has a plan to get rid of these bleep bleep bleeps.
Right.
you know
Right. No, 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 absolutely. Where someone is actually trying to do something rather than just
and
settling
kicking
for
their ass. It's
complacency.
satisfying. It
Yeah.
was satisfying to write, and it's satisfying to read somebody doing something about it, and
Beautiful.
with lucid ideas about uh how it could be instead.
Right. It's kind of wild that it's like all happening, Ugh,
uh,
all at least all getting revealed,
and nobody's more surprised than me. you know
Right.
Open the newspaper, I'm like, "Oh, fuck, man, that was in the book I wrote 10 years ago. What the hell?"
Well, I'm just, it's just I'm just so completely and utterly flabbergasted by the moment. And
Yeah.
it's like I could smell the propaganda, and if, anyone who's, you know, in my mind, anyone with any serious moral conscience could see the shit storm that was brewing. But to see now that it was all orchestrated and that this was like a planned takeover
Oh, yeah.
and a planned division, you
Yeah.
know, it's just like absolutely, yeah,
Oh, yeah. And they're planning now. They're planning
yeah.
now. They're
They're
coming.
always
Neo
planning.
Nazis are coming for your kids online. That's what's happening.
Yeah. They're
And
indoctrinating young men,
you got
right?
to be careful. When I teach a class about ancestors, like getting in touch with your ancestor spirits, I have to warn all my students. The minute you try to find out who you are online, you know what sites you're going to be directed to. White supremacist recruitment sites. And so you
But
have
we
to
were
be very
talking about
careful.
this because this is
You have to be
something
very
that,
careful.
this is something that needs to be unpacked. And we were having
Oh
a
yeah.
private discussion about this, but like, we need to face the reality that Europe was the first, like, what happened was is that, the powers that be perfected their genocidal destruction of indigenous cultures in Europe, and then went out and have been doing it to everyone else.
And
It
massacre
would,
their own women, right,
right,
first. And
exactly.
then they ran out, actually.
Yeah,
And they had to go other places to find more brown people and women to kill.
right, right. But yeah, it's just this, and it's something that doesn't get talked about. But even when I remember, looking into my own personal family history, my family history only goes so far back. It goes all the way back until around, the 1600s in Normandy. And what
Mhm.
happened with my family, the only reference we have is that they didn't speak French. And
Right.
because of that, they were shipped to Canada.
Yeah.
The young men were married off to
Mm.
Parisian women,
Yeah.
and they were shipped to a foreign land.
But this is how we even got to the New World. Is
Yeah,
that was Europe's idea of what to do with anybody they didn't like, was ship them somewhere else. Where, by the way, there are already other people living.
I know, right? They're like,
It's
here,
like,
here, you go destroy those people
and
and forget about
even at
us,
this point, whiteness is not a thing.
No,
It's not a thing. You're French, you're Irish, you're German,
right.
you're Russian. There wasn't any of that. That didn't
Yeah,
happen until we get to America, and the poor whites allied with the blacks and the indigenous to have a revolution. And this was how they shut it down. Now you're a cracker. You
right,
get the crumbs, you get upper management position. And that's how whiteness was created. It was created in a boardroom in the
right.
1800s, and you're not white. You and I enjoy white privilege. Let's not
Of
get
course,
confused.
of
Every day
course.
we do, but it's a non thing. It
Yeah, it's a
doesn't
construct.
exist. And
Right.
anyone trying to convince you to identify as white is a neo Nazi.
Yeah. It gets all so ridiculous and surreal, you know. And you're 100% right. Like, it was a construct in America to unite Americans against this, the
Because they
Latino and
couldn't keep the
indigenous and black
rebellion
other.
down any
Yeah.
other way.
Right. And it's also about, dividing, and one of the things that doesn't get talked about a lot is that in earlier colonial period, a lot of, especially like in Canada, this happened a ton. We actually had a war almost of independence over this, but Europeans intermixed with the indigenous people and formed new communities,
Well,
new
that's the
cultures,
stupidest thing
you know?
is that by now, young Canadians and North Americans are less white than they've ever been.
Right, right.
So, where do you get in your head that that's your personal identity? It ain't.
Yeah. 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 But like, what we saw though is, part of the reason, like I've read a couple books on early American democracy, and part of the reason why democracy was even taken up by the powers that be is because they were terrified of young people running off to join the democratic indigenous peoples, like the
Yeah.
Anishinaabe and, the Haudenosaunee, you
What
know?
have you read that theory that the U.S. Constitution is plagiarized from Iroquois Constitution?
I have heard that theory, and there are direct parallels. Like, it's
Yeah.
very, very clear. The
Yeah.
Haudenosaunee people, clearly their democracy inspired it.
The idea that all are
And Greek
created equal
democracy.
is not something they brought from Europe.
Right, right. No, that's not a European idea. That's
No.
not a European idea. I mean, there is great ideas that came from Europe. There was, a lot of this is also right. What we saw too. One of the wild things that's both amazing and depressing for me is studying the history of a lot of these Martinist, Masonic, and Illuminatist organizations. Because when you go back to their earliest histories, many of these organizations these are the rebels. These are the people who are trying to bring democracy and trying to inspire the Renaissance. These are, middle class and merchant class people who are doing everything they can to undermine the nobility. But by the time they come to America, though, they become the successful powers that be. They become the new nobility.
Power
To
changed
where,
hands only slightly, and
right?
the mafia. You know what's interesting is that in Italian, that's not a noun.
Mm,
No, it's a descriptive word.
okay.
Yeah, because mafioso is mafia-ish, and it's
Mm,
not a mafia person. It's not that cosa nostra is a
right.
noun.
Okay.
Mafioso is just how it's in everything
Oh, wow.
and how you start acting like that. And what it is it's you organize to defend yourself against the government. And that's still what it is in Mexico. That's why you have the cartels and you have the government. And
Right.
that was the conflict that we narrowly avoided.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But I tell you something, cartels don't kill children.
No.
No. The whole country was on fire for a week. It was shelter in place. Nobody went out. Shooting in the streets, cars and buses on fire. Not one Mexican business was harmed. One civilian death by accident. She stepped into the fire. And but the federales and the cartels, they each lost 70 men. And now the cartels are united, but they're united against ICE because they don't do that, what ICE is doing. And so I'm not saying they're good people, but I'm saying when the cartels have more moral ground to stand on than the US government,
Well,
you
this
gotta
is
wonder where the fuck you are now, you
we,
know?
we are seeing the complete and utter moral degradation and collapse of the U.S. society
Yeah.
right before our, not
This
the
is
people,
empire
not the
collapse,
people,
and that right
empire
there
collapse.
is
Yeah.
Emperor Nero.
Right, right. But you know, like I was just watching a segment on the news the other day that just struck me to the core. I was watching Secular Talk here on YouTube, and they were talking about how Pete Hegseth and a bunch of his generals are framing this current war in Iran as bringing Armageddon. And that Trump is, is blessed by Christ, and that this is all about calling the return of Christ, and they're creating their greater Israel.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
this is
see,
full
the
on
thing
Fourth Reich
is
nonsense now.
that this
Like,
isn't about belief. This is about cognitive dissonance,
yeah,
but it always has been because you
yeah,
can't have your number one rule be thou shalt not kill and then have a holy war. It's
right.
made to fuck up your brain so you can't think straight, right?
Well, empire and colonialism is always dependent upon myth. You can't just get people to do this kind of extraordinary
No,
degradation that is empire.
you gotta
It's
confuse them
generational
first. Confuse
abuse.
them about who
Yeah,
they are, what they stand
yeah,
for, what they want to do with their life, what the world is.
yeah.
Now, this in the airport in Athens, I ran into a woman and she said, "Where are you from?" And I said, "I'm from California." And she kind of went, mm. I said, "Why? Where are you from?" She said, "I'm Israeli." And I said, "Oh shit."
Oh
We
gosh, you're
visibly
gonna judge me.
recoiled from each other.
I
We
know.
did not know one another. We visibly recoiled from each other.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because the news, it gets in your body.
yeah,
And then we
yeah,
looked around and we laughed and we said, imagine how scared of us all these people are.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, guess what? It's not your neighbor's fault. It's not the lady sitting next to you on the plane.
No.
None of this is happening. And so, in order to combat the division that is being actively sown in my body, I have to do something about it. I
Mm,
have to think nice thoughts about Jewish people and Muslim people. And I have to be careful that I'm
yeah,
not being groomed into recoiling from my neighbor.
right.
That's
Exactly.
just
No, that's the
silly.
thing. That's the thing. We all have to be standing up and protecting each other. We got to be united. And this is their ultimate. this is what we see there. Everything is about divide and conquering, to keeping people into team sports and divided over nonsense. Divided over nonsense. Like, you and I are non-binary. We know a lot of queer and trans people, but let's also be honest. Trans people represent 1%, 1% of the population, and to have them be the center of
Yeah.
such a massive
By the way,
cultural
Jews are
zeitgeist is insane. I know, with
2.5% of the
all of
American
this,
population. There's 12 million of them total, and half
right?
of them don't practice at all.
It's all absurd.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's the same
Yeah.
kind of absurdity, right? You
So I was
neglect the
listening to
supreme of the minority.
Yuval Harari, who I don't even
Right.
agree with about most things.
Mm,
And his books are way too long. I'm sorry, you can't write like a 1,500-page book and expect someone to read it. But it was a video clip that sailed by,
right.
and the question the interviewer asked him was an interesting question. She said, "What do you think about the people who think this is all a simulation?"
Mm,
And he said, "Well, there is a reality, and it's the rocks and the trees and the rivers and the mountains and the seas. That's reality. Day, night, hello. There are realities that we share. But when someone destroys them, no one reacts. Yeah. But if you're gonna go remove a stone from the Wailing Wall or a mosque, or when Notre Dame burned down,
right.
all hell breaks loose and everybody sends money.
Right.
Those are
That's
imaginary
absurd.
things. Those are
Yeah.
imaginary things that don't really exist. It's not reality. This is
Yeah.
not the reality we share. This is made up stuff. And it gets a physical and a financial reaction out of everybody. That is called living in a simulation.
Right.
Now you're living in a fantasy world. And
Absolutely.
so that's when I was like, okay, I'm gonna take a walk in the gorge and see if I can find some wild asparagus, And
Yeah, but yeah, and that's such an important thing, right? Reconnecting to, one of the things I tell this story often, but it bears repeating. I remember I met this really interesting character from South Africa online, and they were fortunate enough to become initiated. They're a Westerner, but they're from South America or South Africa, and they got initiated traditionally into the Ibogaine rites. So they
oh,
actually buried this person like in their own grave, and they
oh,
they had to take
with the bone
tree bark.
to breathe
Yeah.
through.
Oh
Yeah, lots
yeah,
of
the
people do
whole
that.
thing.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, so for me, I was just, oh wow, my anthropology student cap went on. So I was talking to him, and I asked him, so like, what happened to you? And he goes, did you meet the ancestors, right? And he's like, yeah, I met the ancestors.
Mhm.
And he goes, so I said, what happened? And he goes, well, I'm freaking out and I don't really know what to say. So what pours out to the ancestors is just like the most extreme anxiety about purpose and love, you know? And the ancestors look at him and go, where's your food come from?
Yeah.
And he goes, I don't know. The grocery store? Well, where do they get it from? I don't know. And he goes, well, what about your water? Where's your water come from? I don't know. you know? And the ancestors tell him, find out where your food comes from, find out where your water comes from. And that was
That's
the message
reality.
they had for him. And he woke up and that totally changed his whole life.
Oh yeah.
you know he wound up leaving the city and started his own farm. And
Well, or if you can't afford to move right now, just like
mm,
print out a photo of the reservoir where your water comes from, or the mountains
right,
where your water comes from, and stick it by your tap. You
right.
don't have to walk there and carry it on your head. Okay,
No,
you just have to know and have
yeah,
some kind of physical relationship with
right.
where it's coming from,
We're
because the
from
next
where you
wars
are.
aren't going to be water wars.
Yeah, they are going to be water wars. Yeah, that's going to be ugh, you
You
know
are going to have to know where your food comes from, And you're going to want to sign up with a CSA, Community Supported Agriculture. You get the box, you go to the farmer's market, and you grow everything you can on your balcony to eat, my friends.
Right, right. There's been this is another big thing that we've seen. I'm not I don't think that, modern society is the worst thing in the world, but there's also a reality that has
Yeah,
happened.
yeah,
And that is that the vast majority of us, especially the youngest generations, have turned over so much of their traditional knowledge set over to professionals, over to the government, over to society, and have now become completely dependent, unable of helping themselves and protecting themselves.
yeah.
You know,
But
like
this infrastructure could crumble,
right,
and it will, and no matter where you live, but to varying degrees depending on where you live. And you're going to have to know what you want to do instead.
right. Like I talk to my mom a lot. I grew up in privilege. I'm
Mm,
very middle class, white, extraordinarily privileged. My mom, though, no, she grew
mm,
up in the worst kind of imagined poverty. But they had things like they were connected to nature. So while they couldn't afford food, they could go gather food.
yeah,
You know, they could go fish. They had these skill sets. They could go grab roadkill. Like it sounds, but for them, this was everything. And this
yeah.
fed a family of eight, you
Well,
know?
that's going to be
So,
important moving
right. We're going to
forward,
see,
is the
yeah, we're going
thing.
to see that these things all need to come back. These things all need to come back because they do
And if
empower
the
you and
only
protect
plant you
you.
recognize is mint, pick
Right.
that and make some tea. Have a relationship with the
Yeah.
living plant.
Well, and this is something that we can regain. We've been talking about the alchemy over the last. We did that last episode, Occult Explorers. So really excited for the next one, and
Mm,
it just got me thinking. Even talking with our friend Veldane. One of the big things about alchemy is just knowing the plants and knowing the things in your area and
yeah,
developing a relationship with them. Like you
yeah.
can do all these kind of things. You know, like I got a big crab apple tree in my yard. I need to process these crab apples more often. Most of the time I just give them to my neighbor and
Is
then
it a
they,
cider apple?
it's just a crab apple. So sometimes they're really sweet, sometimes they're really mealy. But it just varies. But most of the time they're pretty good. Sometimes they can be sour. But what you want to do with them is you want to process them.
You want to make
Like I could
something,
take them, turn it into like like turn it into like a fruit leather or something. That's what the
or
indigenous people used to do,
applesauce, or yeah.
or pie or whatnot. But there's so much of this kind of stuff if you start to know.
And these things that you have in jars in your pantry, they're gonna come in handy.
Yeah, they're
You
gonna come
know.
in handy. Right, right, right. It's gonna be beyond. Well, it's just yeah, and it's just about reforming these connections with
Yeah,
nature that have been lost.
this is not a bad thing to be
No,
forced to connect with nature right now.
no, it's a
It's gonna
beautiful
help
thing.
all of our anxiety and you know.
Well, I think this is part of the big problem that we're seeing is, as much as we're all right now connected through the power of technology, and that's a beautiful thing. But this technology also all distracts us, occupies our time,
Well, and it
disconnects
can
us.
go away anytime they want it to. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right,
most of my friendships come from before there was the internet. We used to have
right,
to write letters to the GPO.
right, right, right.
But you
No,
have a lot more time to not say that, and to really think about what you want to communicate. You can write love poetry. This never happens anymore. You know what I mean?
right.
Letters are a beautiful thing.
Letters are a beautiful thing. It's writing is also a hard thing that has largely been lost, and we're seeing it getting lost more and more and more
Well,
because
I
of the
hope that
advent
it
of
carries
AI.
over because my
And
son is dyslexic. He's always had a
right.
real hard time writing, so the internet and the spell check and everything is a total boon for him. So
Oh, same. I
I
get it.
hope we can install some kind of pirate internet and solar powered, non slave made phones in the future. You know,
there's got to be a way. There's got to be like a solar punk future that we can get to, where we marry nature and technology, where we can come
Gen
into
Z's
some
not
kind of
giving up the
equity.
internet. They're just
What?
giving up the rest of this.
Right.
We never abolished monarchy. We still have them. That's the thing.
Yeah.
And people who are freaked out by Epstein probably want to take a look at the fact that this is how Black and Native American women have been treated since white people got to the continent, and probably before.
Well, this is something that
This is only shocking because it's everybody now.
right.
Yeah.
This is something that it's really hard though for a lot of people to understand. And I can speak to this from experience. When you're in extraordinary privilege, it's hard for you to imagine it. I remember, okay, one of the most wild and shocking philosophy classes that I took was when I started to get into feminist philosophy. Because, for most of my life, just certain things were accepted, like axiomatic things, like Descartes, I think, therefore I am. But
Mhm.
when you start to confront like feminist theory, they go, what if someone de-
I cooked your dinner
controls
for you,
every,
therefore you is, motherfucker. You know.
yeah, but what if someone dominates every fucking aspect of your life? What if you don't have a free thought?
Yeah.
What are you then? I think, therefore I am. What the fuck does that mean in the face of abject tyranny and slavery?
Nothing.
It means nothing. That's like the most ridiculously privileged thing to be able to say. It completely disconnects you from the reality of life and the
Well, and it
domination that can
speaks
be placed
to this
upon an individual.
simulation, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, if you're living in a simulation where, one rock is worth more than another, then
yeah,
yeah,
right. But this is the thing. How
you
can
don't
you?
exist until you start thinking as
Right,
separate entity from the homogenized, brainwashed, you know, simulation matrix.
right,
That's what he was talking about. He's like differentiating psychologically from this sick matrix that dictates everything you think you are, right?
right,
And so he only begins to exist as himself when he starts to think rationally, the logos, right?
yeah,
But that's starting from someplace sick, you know.
yeah, yeah. This is part and parcel of the whole human condition, is that we're starting from a place of abject ignorance. We're all a bunch of apes with a flashlight, and we've managed to make the flashlight a little bit wider. But that's we're still fishing around in the dark with a bloody flashlight, and it
Well,
could
this is
go
why
out at any
initiation
moment.
is important, and I mean
Yeah,
any kind of initiation, because you're not alone.
right,
Especially when you're alone, you get real quiet, you realize how not alone you really are. There's
right,
a line of spirits that have been trying to get through to you for years.
mm,
And they'll all talk at once, and you can get crazy, and you gotta not be loaded, and you gotta use the plants also that don't get you high. And the antidote, not just the Christos blasting your brain out forever. You need the antidote. You need the thing to come down from that gnosis and
right.
into your body and into reality.
Right. It's the one and the many. You got to be in the earth and in the sky. You got to do
Yeah.
both, right? None of you. And life is a cycle of death and rebirth.
Yeah.
Timelessness is your reward. Immortality is already here, right? Like, yeah. There's this big thing I keep thinking about. Just so much of our current issues are just because we are so caught up in our own limited perspectives and our own limited nonsense, like right, like we have to be able to recognize the propaganda, but it's so hard when the propaganda comes from your mother and she's been propagandized too. you know it's so
Well,
hard when
that's the thing.
you know
That's why it's so easy to trigger everyone, is that there's an
right,
Epstein in every family.
yeah, yeah,
And that's this is on purpose. Don't think it's not. This is on purpose to trigger the hell out of everybody. And now you're
Well,
in
this
cognitive dissonance, and you can't look at anyone without recoiling. You don't know who anyone is anymore.
well,
That's
we take for
dangerous place
granted,
to be.
we take for granted so much, in this moment, a lot of us, how privileged we are in terms of progress. There's still a long way to go, but like you had pointed out, and I've been talking to this with my wife Taylor a lot. If you go back just like to the 60s, to the 70s, like women couldn't have credit cards,
Yeah,
couldn't drive,
it's not that long ago. Yeah.
all, like having bodily autonomy and having the ability to have your own career and your own free money, your own money. This is all
Well,
new,
lots of places this
new.
never happened.
And it never happened. Yeah, you're right. And it never happened in lots of places. Right. And we take this all for so granted. And now we're seeing, like, this is why it's like when people start to me, I think, honestly, the biggest tell and the biggest thing is how people treat women and how they view the feminine, because it's like, man, we're gonna go back to the powers that be want to take us back to the 1890s, to the to the Gilded Age, back to slavery and women as chattel, and like people are signing up for this, not even recognizing it because they aren't even aware of the history. Like Donald Trump comes out and says his favorite president was President William F. McKinley, the Gilded Age guy who got assassinated by anarchists because he caused the Great Depression. Like, look at who these people tell you they are and what
They
they
tell
love
you to your face who they are.
constantly, constantly. And we all
And
pretend. We all
now
pretend.
that all this information has come out, doesn't it make sense what Muslim feminists have been telling us up until now, that we don't look free to them at all
Right.
because we're totally bought in to this pedophile aesthetic that is being fed to us nonstop through the TV and the constant ads and everything. You got to take off all your body hair. You got to look as much like a 12-year-old as you possibly can.
Well, it's one of these things that just blows my mind that
You
it's so
can't
hard for
even
me to
walk in your
grasp.
shoes because you're trying to walk on little carrot sticks. The
What
Muslim women are like, you don't look free to me at all.
What do we do though when every single thing that is any kind of erotic is been exploited and has been like we take anything that's beautiful about sex and about the beauty of humanity and we capitalize it, exploit it, and degrade it, you
Don't you
know?
think all this is designed to turn everybody off?
Yeah, to keep them in consumption and to keep them
Uh,
in abuse,
Keep
right?
them in a version of their own libido.
And I just keep thinking too, it's like in our modern internet, like one of the great tragedies that no one even talks about is all of us have been exposed to violent rape pornography
Oh, it's in every
constantly,
movie. Yeah.
constantly.
Yeah.
It's not, but like now with the advent of the internet, it's like everywhere and it is considered okay, and it's just like
Not
unavoidable.
only
And
okay, something to emulate.
something to emulate. You get people like freaking and Andrew Tate, who literally celebrate themselves as sex traffickers and as violent
Yeah, they're
abusers,
proud.
right? Like this is the nightmare world that we're living in, and people want to pretend it's not real.
No, it's real.
It's not real. Or they they yell about freedom or they yell about or whatever in order to allow for all this nonsense. I don't know. It's complicated, but it's like we have to start waking up and recognizing how disgusting and dividing all this stuff is. I don't know.
And a big part of that is connecting with nature, knowing where your water comes from, cooking
Right.
your own food, maybe growing a plant or two, and
Having
connecting
intimate
in
relationships, right?
silence,
In person.
doing the extra work to connect when the media inundation has turned us all off and we're like, ew, gross, I just want to go to sleep. We have to make the extra effort to connect with one another, to not allow our libidos to be turned off.
Right, right, right. But it's just so disgusting, and it's so hard to be in this to be in this culture, and it's upsetting. It's upset me since I was a child, and I've always felt
Yeah,
like a
me too.
flippant alien
Me
because
too.
no one sees it. No one
Well, I
bloody
think it's a
sees it.
lot harder for those people right now.
Yeah,
It's a lot
yeah,
harder to have your whole house cards and your identity fall apart right now. We're lucky to be neurodivergent and always a little bit outside the norm, and nerding out with books because we couldn't really just hang out. And so
right,
uh,
exactly.
it was starting with a little more information, but now we don't look so disturbed after all.
But it's like, how do we go about healing this kind of stuff?
Yeah.
How do we go about recreating the community that was taken from us? How do we convince people to open themselves up and surrender to the spirits? What does that even entail and mean? Because it's such a personal
You
thing.
can't convince. Well, Bucky Fuller said, If someone is asleep and you try to wake them up, they're not gonna wake up. If somebody
Right.
is a little bit asleep and you try to wake them up, they're gonna curse you out and then go back to sleep. So
Mm,
nobody wants a cup of tea until they're awake.
right.
It's non-consensual. It's invasive. Yeah.
Yeah. But this is the
And
problem.
then
We
you
all
ask
need to
them, would you
change, and
like
no
a
one
cup
wants to
of
change.
tea? And if they
Right.
say yes, then yes.
Right. Right. But this is also the problem, or one of the things, it's like people ask me, oh, I want to get in touch with the spirits or the muse or whatnot. And I'm like, are you sure? Do you know what you're asking for? You're going to cause your life to go into a total whirlwind of insanity. It'll be ultimately for your best benefit, but
Oh
it's
yeah.
going to force you to face yourself.
And
It's
you
going to force
can't
you to
turn
deal
the
with your
ship
shit.
around, you
No,
know.
no, you
Once
can't
you
turn the ship
realize
around.
you don't exist in the capacity you previously thought you did.
Right? And once you see the signs, then they're everywhere. Then they're pulling at you. Then you can't ignore them. You're
Yeah.
screaming in your face, right? But
Well, that's
talk
the
to
thing, is it can come
mm,
on real heavy, and I think, hallucinogens are a thing that, in history was done like once or twice. Only the echidna was doing it all the time. And that's
right,
so that she's completely in service to other
right.
people. It's not for herself that she's doing
No,
it.
that's a specialized
Yeah.
path. It's a karmic path. It's like,
It's a path of self
sadhus.
annihilation
Right,
and service to the community.
right, right,
It's not an
right.
ego trip.
No, no one is. Yeah, you don't just go on that path willy-nilly, and it's not for everyone. And yeah, this is a big thing that we've lost, and we're seeing, like one of the things that I've been witnessing. It's so good and bad. Like, in my lifetime, I've seen cannabis go from being, completely illegal to being medically legal to being recreational to being genetically modified to the point of
Yeah.
absurdity.
So whose is it? And what did they
Where
do
it's
to
now it's
it?
destroying people
Yeah.
again. Now it's
Yeah.
just now it's no longer that healthy medicine. The healthy medicine is still there, but it's so easy
So
for
take
people
some
now
of
to
the
destroy
seeds and
themselves.
stick them in the ground and
Right,
see what happens.
right. Don't buy the government weed, man. Don't buy the government weed. Yeah, take them and stick them in the ground. That's the other thing. It's like this is the thing we've lost. It's like there's this really awesome YouTuber who's been showing up on my feed every once in a while. Makes me just cry out laughing because he's a gardener. He goes, "Oh, you want to plant some sunflower seeds? Look, I bought this bag, bird seed, 99 cents." He starts shaking it everywhere. He goes, "Look, 6 months, gonna have a ton of this." It's like, but that's the thing. That's like literally all you got to do.
And there are hemp seeds in there, in the bird seed, by the way.
All right, there you go. Maybe you'll get some hemp then. Yeah. But
But
yeah,
yeah, it's more important the good water and decent food. Get some carbs in there, a little protein, and then the grounding things like the clays and the shilajit, the mineral pitch and the resins. You want those in your diet because that's what's going to
right,
bring you down into your body. And this we're going to go over this with the alchemical process. What goes up must come down. You want to be
right.
coming down in a healthy, positive way so that you can actually finish what you started and create the thing you came here to create instead of just wigging out up here.
Right, right. I honestly think that so much of our society is caused by people wigging out too much up in the air. They spent way too much time in the and whether or not that's like orchestrated by society is beyond the point, right? If we're all
When
spending our
it's part
time,
of the split, in
right,
alchemy, there's soul and spirit, your
right,
lunar and solar consciousness. So you can't even start until they're equal. Right.
right.
The heart brain and the head brain need to be in sync.
I also think it's
Otherwise, you're
like
not thinking clearly.
we took a very specific path, like the echidna path. We took
Mm.
the path of Attis and we universalized it and said everyone has to follow the path of that. And it's like, this is for a very specific type of Dharma, for a very specific type of person.
And
And,
it's
and
culture specific also.
yeah,
And Dr.
right.
Jang pointed this out in one of his videos that the secret society thing comes from not having a tribe.
Right, right, right. Absolutely it does. It's trying to heal those wounds that were destroyed, right? The Illuminati is literally a humanist society. This is why it's like when you start to do history, like people are afraid about the Illuminati. Who was the original Bavarian Illuminati? Who was Adam Weishaupt? He was a Renaissance humanist spreading a early form of democratic humanism.
Mm.
Like that's what he was doing. And if you look at the Masons, they're doing that. You look at the Martinists, they're doing that. Now, there are some reactionary groups that are involved in the secret societies that are monarchists, like the Golden Dawn,
Oh, a
like
whole
the
bunch. A whole
OTOA
bunch of
before
those people are
Crowley,
creeps.
the
A whole bunch.
Rosicrucian, a lot of them. But
Every
there's also a
judge in the
lot of,
United States is a
yeah.
Mason. Every president except for Kennedy was a Mason.
Well, what we see with the Masons is
They're
that
creeps, man.
when
That's
they
not normal.
well, what happens in America, right, is that they supplant the nobility. They
Yeah,
become the new nobility,
yeah, yeah.
right? And so that inner clique takes over to the point where you get anti-Masonic parties, you get Mormonism, which begins as an anti-Masonic religion. Like,
Yeah, but it
yeah,
begins
go
and
ahead.
ends with the Masonic ritual, also.
Yeah, he also gets executed by the
Yeah,
Masons
in a
for
Masonic
revealing.
fashion. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Because his whole thing was he was mad that they wouldn't let him in. This
Well,
was
that's
all
why that
about.
art school in Austria they offered Trump a full scholarship
Oh
because
God,
they
that's
didn't
so.
want to get blamed again.
Okay, now that is a great tweet. Oh man, that's like.
This time it's not our fault. We offered him a free ride.
Yeah, Trump, if you want to switch careers and get into painting, like please, please. Oh
But
man.
that's the thing is I feel like people are overwhelmed. They feel alone. They feel like
Mhm.
they have to do it by themselves. And there's nobody has ever done anything by themselves,
Right.
you know? And you can be alienated, but if you express yourself, you might find one or two people who understand what you're talking about. And the thing is, there's so many spirits just like really waiting to give you a hug and tell you you're okay and advise you about what food to eat because that's what they're gonna do first.
Right. So
They're gonna
okay,
be like, are you okay, man? Never mind
right.
your existential questions, can we start here? And then we'll get there with the
Right.
structure of the universe, but no one has ever figured out the structure of the universe by themselves.
No, and it's also,
This
one
is
of the things
inspiration that we
it's
need.
also it's in a constant state of flux. And
Yeah.
everything is absurd. This is one of the big like when you start to get into the most empowered of the intelligent ancients of the world, your your Lao Tzu's, your Dionysus, your Socrates, right? All these they all tell you the same thing. I don't
Go
know
sit by the
shit.
river. Yeah, that's what they
Right? Go
say.
sit by the river and
I'm
live your
finna go no
life.
shun. The love
right,
goddess lives in the river, and she
right.
likes to talk. But
There's
you
this.
have to get really quiet in your head and tune it to that station. I loved what Rich was saying
Mm,
yesterday on a thread about how a musician tunes his instrument before he starts to play, and and people that are talking out their ass. This is a good metaphor, and we all are, because we have this possibility of typing anything we want in there at any time, and you gotta tune your instrument before you share your music.
right,
And it
right.
has to be something people are going to want to listen to and hopefully dance to.
Mm.
And we forget that
It's
because
it's
the
hard
internet
though.
catches us in our underwear and we're unprepared.
Right. What I also want to though, it's like you've got to be okay to make mediocre art. And you got to be okay to make
Yes.
bad art. And you got to
Yes.
just be okay to have fun
Oh,
and be
listen, all the
criticized,
great artists, right? They
right?
learned how to do that figurative thing.
Yeah,
And then they spent the next 20 years learning how to scribble like a child again to get that authenticity back, you
right.
know?
Well, one of the big things that I constantly see with people, because I tell people to join to the tradition that I talk about is the aesthetic tradition. I try to get people to be artists, be creative, and that's what will bring you into this muse, into the spirits if you're
They have to
inspired.
encourage them to do
Right.
it. Yeah.
But you have to encourage so many people because what do we see often is you get people, right? Most of us are good appreciators. We can recognize we've all been trained, especially in modern society, to be critics. We all can recognize the
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
But this becomes a defeating energy for many people because
Well, and so
you
this is
recognize,
what
yeah,
people are often looking for with the microdose and with the constant barrage of hallucinogens, is that
yeah,
it gets that observer, that critic, to go quiet.
right. That's true. That's true. It gets that critic, and many of us need that, especially
Sure.
because we've been so caught up in the scientific mindset, which is helpful. But if you're constantly in a state of doubt, you can't receive, and so you need to shut that down.
And
But
I I heard a famous actress, Viola Davis, say this the other day, but it happens to me every time I do a session. I'm
mm,
like, you get imposter syndrome. You got to work with this. This is your tool. This is your friend, without which you might be full of shit and not know it. So, of course, I do something really weird, right? So somebody is calling me. They're paying me $200, right, for 90 minutes, and I can't be full of shit, right? Because that would not be good. And but I have to have that doubt first. What if
mhm,
I'm wrong? What if I'm on a completely different channel and this person can't connect with me? What if I give bad messages, and then I have to not be that. Okay, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna get out of the way completely. I'm gonna step back and I'm allow spirit to use their instrument, which is me.
right.
And that way I have a better chance of earning my money, right?
Right. No, I understand completely. Right.
And the
You have.
stakes have to be that. I'm sorry. There are a lot of
Mhm,
people that think, oh, well, you're a healer. You should be doing it for free. Well, no, for one thing, if it's free, nobody pays any attention to it. They don't
yeah.
remember what happened.
Yeah.
They completely take it for granted, and they come back and they're like, oh, I'm better because of something the doctor did. And you're like, okay, well, I spent a lot of hours on that, and I'm glad you're better. But if there's an exchange, like even a gypsy is not going to do a reading for 20 less than 25 cents. You have to give something. You're not invested in it at all, well then go away. And so the stakes have to be there
I
to
remember. I
keep
met.
it pure, to keep
Right.
it excellent.
Right. No,
This
you
is
make
not a
such a good point.
throwaway thing that I didn't spend my life studying. Come on now, you
No, no,
know?
no. And
And
it's
so
exactly.
and so the transaction and also the imposter syndrome is
Mm,
good.
Yeah.
You want
There
that.
yeah.
You want
Yeah.
real life in what you're doing.
Right, right, because it forces you to don that mask and to become the expert, right?
And
Those
you
who
don't,
can, like,
and then
you
it
have
keeps you from pretending.
right, it keeps you from pretending, but it's also it can be a huge challenge though, and it can be self-defeating for people because what I was trying to get at is that, we can all recognize beautiful art, but people get so frustrated, right? You're like, I want to create the beautiful, and then they try, and what they create is anything but.
Well, you
And so
should
then
know,
they're
everybody should know that it's not going to
right,
come out like you thought, period. It's
right.
just not going to.
No.
And if
And
you
that
let
all
go and get out of the way,
serious
it might come out
practice,
better than you thought, or be something totally different.
right? Well, like one artist that really, as a musician, in right, practices everything, and it's like
Yeah,
the
true,
real
true.
true musicians, the real true musicians are the ones who live to practice and who love the practice and who would do it for the fun of it. I
Yeah.
remember reading one quote that hit me so hard was from Itzhak Perlman, right?
Oh,
Arguably one of
yes.
the greatest living
Yeah.
violinists. And he goes, if I miss a day of practice, I can tell. If I miss 2 days of practice, my wife can tell. If I miss 3 days of practice, the audience can tell,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And this is the thing, like those dedicated masters, they live
Yeah.
and breathe, right?
Yeah.
Like you look at someone like Dr. Al, he's reading this shit in his
Oh,
spare time.
oh yeah.
He's his show is his passion. This is what he does
And it
all the
is
time,
that. It's
24
it's
hours.
it's it's tuning your instrument and showing up to play. Yeah.
Right? It's tuning your instrument and showing up to play. And it's like this is how I feel too about like when I'm doing the tarot and whatnot. I've done so much study and I go into those flow states and I get into that inspiration. But this is something that took a long time to
Yeah.
cultivate and develop. And you're so right too. Like one of the things about paying for this kind of stuff that hit me is I met this interesting character. So uh, when I went to university studying religious studies, they brought in some of these various religious leaders and whatnot. I've mentioned this person. They were a Voodoo priests from Montreal, Canada. I don't want to say their name because they're a very private person, but
Mm.
I developed a little bit of a correspondence with them, just asking them questions and stuff, and they'd always answer my stuff. And I remember asking them because they did like it blew my mind as a young person to meet someone who's like, I'm a witch doctor and people pay me to do spells. Like, what? What? And he's like, I come from a lineage of witch doctors. We've done this since Africa. I'm like, what? What do you mean? And it's just like, okay, so I'm starting to ask him like that. And I'm just like, and I basically remember, I grew up in a very Christian culture and the church pays for the priests. The people donate, but the priest never touches any of the money. And there's all this weird, like you can't give the priest, at least in the way that
Yeah.
the group that I was in, money is so antithetical.
Yeah.
And there's all the
They
priest
put
can
a
never
big
be
taboo
associated.
on it, but they sure
Yeah.
want it every Sunday.
Oh yeah, they certainly want it and they certainly were raking it in, but they
Yeah.
make you believe that they don't. So I had this whole concept about that. So I was like, going like and now looking back, I was rude, but I'm like how can you accept money for this? People are desperate and they need something. And their point was it's tit for tat. The spirits need something. I need something.
You
And I
need
was
some
like,
kind of
like what?
investment. Yeah.
And that's what he's saying. But he's like, this is the nature of the universe, is what he's telling me. Snappy, everything has to pay. Everything. I pay the spirits, you pay me, right? Everything,
Listen.
it's like everything is in a
Yeah, I
constant
know.
state of exchange,
And if
right?
you're in touch with nature and you're in your body and you like being independent because it's scary at first, just like anything else, but
Right,
there's a lot of satisfaction there
right,
being self-sufficient and independent. It reduces anxiety by a hell of a lot. And I like paying my way.
right.
I like
This
to
is the
pay
other
my
thing,
own way. I like to pay my own bills.
right?
It's a good thing. Now, I
Yeah,
don't like being in a non-consensual relationship with a nuclear power plant, right? And I
yeah,
know that that's where my money's going. In the States, my electric bill was like $500 a month or something insane. right? But when it's regular, like in Mexico, it was $30, and like here is a reasonable thing, you know. I like it. Nobody
Hmm.
pays my bills for me. It feels good, and
Right.
so and to have that kind of relationship with the spirits where you get off your knees and you quit begging. No, Santa Claus, bring big. No, not like that. You don't show up to meet justice on your knees. She doesn't have any use for that. You don't show up to meet the huntress begging.
Right. Right.
Any real deity needs you on your feet with your head and your heart coherent to even hear correctly what they're saying, you know. And then they're gonna want you to do that, and they might not talk to you again until you did it.
Right. Well, this is one of the interesting things when you look at the Greeks, prior to Christian, like the Greek and Roman pagan religions prior to Christianity. The very idea of submitting to a god, bowing before God, was antithetical. They didn't even bow to Alexander, right? This is one of the big issues you
Mhm.
see with the Persian kings, because the
Mhm.
Persians come in and try to tell them to flip and bow. They're like, we don't even bow to Zeus. What the
Yeah.
hell? Like, you think we're gonna bow to you? Like, but this is a huge important thing, theologically and magically, right? You don't submit to your authority, your rulers. Your rulers are chosen, you know? And there's also like, it makes me, you brought up that Wretch post, and one of the things that Wretch talked about that I thought was interesting in that post was henotheism. And you see this
Mhm.
across the pagan
Mhm.
world, which is that
Mhm.
you worship a divine to the point where it ascends to the one. You treat them as the absolute. But there's also this idea too within that henotheism of this kind of spiritual anarchy to a certain degree, where there's an implication that everything is equal. So I am divine, you're divine. But
Now
when
I
we're
gotta
in that
have
intimacy of
people who
connection,
check me
it's all
though,
right. Oh yeah, but
because
no,
most
yeah,
people are wrong about me, and so
yeah,
and so I gotta have people that I trust that are gonna tell me when I'm full of
mhm,
shit that I'm gonna listen to them. But
right,
this,
yeah,
as you're
right,
saying, this is my chosen authority. This is the person that I say, you know what?
mhm.
Am I wrong here? And I trust them to tell me.
Well, yeah, but what you can get, what you get so interesting about like that
Or if I don't
spirituality
know I'm
idea
wrong, they're gonna slap me upside the head, get in the car. And I
with this
will.
kind, yeah, but with this kind of like henotheistic spiritual anarchy idea, where it gets interesting is like you can worship the tree as the divine, you can worship the ants, and you should,
Yes.
you should,
Oh,
you should,
yes.
and anytime you get into these connections, you should need
The
to
ants are
recognize
gonna
that
tell you
all
all about the weather. If you don't
right,
spray them with poison, they're gonna tell
right,
you a lot of things.
right, right, all of these things, everything has that ability to rise and transcend to the absolute.
Yeah.
And if you treat life with respect and you're open to communication, then you can receive, right?
Yeah. Dude,
And
there's
it
a
needs to be an
500-year
open
old olive tree in front of my house.
500-year-old.
500 years old.
That's absurd.
Yeah. Still producing olives.
That's so absurd.
Yeah.
And amazing,
But
olive
then
trees
if
are so
something's
amazing.
that old, like the redwoods, you gotta slow
Yeah,
way down to hear
right.
what those ancestors said.
Like the mountains. Yeah, you can't just engage, but you can if you take the time and you really, really
Yes,
are there.
yes, you're
Other
wired
energies are
for
so
it.
fast, they're
Unlike all
intense.
these other
Right.
things, your body's wired for this connection. You
Right.
know.
Like what I noticed personally, the things that were easiest for me to connect to, in terms of just that intense spiritual feeling, trees, right? The air, the wind, when the wind is
Mm.
howling, you know,
Speaks to
exactly.
you. Yeah.
It'll speak to you. And if you are open to that intuition, it'll just send you off places, like, and this is something I kind of learned from my mother. My mother, she's not a religious person. She's almost atheist, like, borderline. But every once in a while, she'll just be like, tell me something or have a vision of the future. And I'm like, where did that come from? And she go, I
Mhm.
heard it from the wind. And she'll laugh at me. But she's also dead serious,
Yeah.
you know? But this is the thing. If you're open, you can recognize these things, and these things will tell you things, you know? Like my mom was coming, oh, it's going to be a terrible storm today. Oh, the wind told me, you know?
Yeah. Well, I draw a direct line of relationship between her ability to kill her own food
Mm,
and her ability to hear what the wind is saying.
mm. What do you mean?
I mean, that's very grounded in reality thing.
Right, right, right,
Is
right,
this is
right.
a connection with nature where you are not refusing the killer.
Yeah.
You know the killer.
Yeah, this is
You
something
you
that a
are
lot of
you
people
are
struggle
alive
with.
and breathing because you're a killer.
Yeah.
And the
We all
killer
are
is not
continuing.
somebody else. The killer
No,
is not somebody else who needs to stop. You
right.
know.
We're all the hunter, right? And the
Ex-
hunted. We're all
ex-
Dionysus. This is why, like, you drink his blood and you eat his flesh, because you're ultimately doing it to each other anyway, right? Yeah. But a lot of us have lost that. You know, we were all the huntress Artemis. And part of the myth with the magic of Artemis is she hunts the zodiac and she dominates
Mm,
the
mm,
zodiac,
mm,
right? And that's her going through the cycles of evolution
right.
and learning from each of this by defeating them,
Yeah,
she overcomes them and
yeah.
empowers their spirit. So there's
Oh,
like
you
this
got to eat
ancient
in every
shaman,
season.
right?
It's
Yeah,
gonna be different animals.
right? And you've got to empower yourself through those cycles of changes, but there's like that wild shamanic magic implied there. But one thing I want to get into with you, Leslie, I want to ask. So if I was to email you and ask
Mm,
you for one of your sessions, and I
mhm.
said, I want you to help me connect to the spirits.
Yeah.
I want to, I've been having, a dream, and I tell you a dream. Then how would that go? What would that look like with you?
Well, first of all, I don't know because I'm not a
Mm,
telephone operator.
right.
So what's gonna happen is I was a massage therapist for 30
Right.
years, which is basically a cover story for what I do now. And but I'm trained this way. So I'm gonna close my eyes and I'm gonna start with your body. And I'm gonna scan your body and then I'm gonna start to report. I'm gonna start to report anything I do you need new prescription for
Yeah, I just got a
glasses?
new prescription.
Yeah, okay. So
I just can't wear them with the lights that I have, so I'm always in this squinty
yeah,
mode. They're in my desk
okay.
right here.
So this is what happens, right?
Yeah.
And some bodies I start from the top. your
Mm.
your energy is up to down. A lot of people's energy is down to up, so I'll get nope, okay, up. And then we're gonna go this way instead, and then I'm gonna scan the body. It's like I'm pulling a sieve through it, and then it's gonna catch where there's something, and I'm gonna go, oh, there's something there, right? And so it caught here and I'm like, I squint, right? And I'm like, oh, tension in the eyes. So either just got a new prescription or needs a new prescription. And and, and then I scan the whole body. First, I scan the whole body. And as I'm doing that, by the time we get to your toes, you're gonna hear a shift in my voice. And that's me going into more of a trance. And the deeper in trance I get, the easier it is for the spirit to speak through me. And so most of the time, the first spirit to come isn't the one you were calling. It's the one
Right.
that's calling you. And there could be a whole line that is waiting. Or they could be laughing and telling me, Snappy already gets my messages. What he's coming here for?
Right.
Right?
Right. Right. Right.
Or remind him of it could be anything. That time the squirrel jumped on his leg. Remind him when he almost stepped in front of a truck and pulled back. Remind him uh, when the bus was late and he had to stand there and then the wind came up. I'll get like a charades, like a looks like, sounds like, tastes like, and I'll hear a word, and I have to put it together into this picture. And then, if you don't already know that your mind is everywhere, uh, then it could look or feel like I'm doing something to you. But basically, I'm just getting out of the way and dropping back into my neurodivergence, and then the spirits are gonna give me the messages one at a time, and I have to get it right or we don't get to the next one.
Okay.
And the deeper I go into trance, then you can start asking questions once they've got their urgent shit off their chest, right?
Right, right.
And we can start, going into the questions. And you might have a list of questions and you might follow it or you might throw it away because now you got different ones.
Right, right. You've just been told all this stuff, right?
Now, sometimes we don't get any words, they just
Mm,
want to work.
right.
And then so, or sometimes they'll tell me you need to eat first. That happened recently.
Oh,
They're
wow.
like, they're like, mm-mm, food. No, okay, this person needs to eat before we do this. And it could be anything, We could wind up focusing on moving energy in the body instead of getting messages, or vice versa.
Mhm.
So I'm basically at my best just a vessel, and I have no idea what's going to happen in the session. But I do know that you're going to get enough homework out of that where you're not going to come back next week. It's going to be a while.
Right, right.
and
Oh,
I'm
that's
and
awesome.
I'm not trying to get you to come back next week.
Right.
I'm here to serve, and I'm giving you the maximum for your time and your money because you worked for it too, and and it's going to be worth it. And then, then I want to hear how it went, so
Mhm.
I'm going to want to hear about it then when you're like, oh, I totally went to that bookstore and I did find this thing, and
Right,
um
right,
and then next time you call back in whatever 6 months or a year or whatever it is, then it'll be totally different. It'll be a completely different thing.
right, right.
And I have
Such a
no
magical
way of
thing.
knowing what it's going to be like. But I do know that you can't shock me.
Mhm.
No. I've had
No?
people call me up and say they just killed someone and someone handed them this number.
Oh gosh.
How are you, sweetie? Are you sitting down? How do you feel in your body? What do you feel in your body right now? You can't shock me. I've
That's
heard
wild.
too much. I know too much about human nature.
I one time the wildest thing I remember one time was working downtown Ottawa and I'm doing tarot and someone comes into the shop and they tell me that a witch told them that they were going to die in a
Yeah.
year and they wanted confirmation about when they were going to die and if I could tell them when they would die. And I just looked at them and said, "No, that's not how the tarot works. And I'm not going to do this reading for you." And they were like freaking out. How would you handle something like that? Because I didn't know what to bloody do in that situation
I
other than
would
say no.
say that witch has some kind of psychological problem.
Right, right, right.
And you
Yeah.
need to differentiate from that person. That person
Mm,
hexed you, is what they did.
yeah. Yeah,
And
that
what they
witch.
were
No witch should
thinking
tell you when you
is
die.
that
Like
if
that's so
you were in a
weird.
state of anxiety, you were going to keep coming back and giving her more money. That's what she was thinking.
Right, right, right,
And so here's the deal with life on planet Earth. When you incarnate, you don't get to know when you die. That's the whole damn game right there.
right.
That's the whole thing. So
Well,
no, nobody can tell you when you're gonna die. I had an astrologer tell me when I was gonna die. And I had an acupuncture teacher who believed the astrologer and died that day.
oh,
Yeah, yeah,
self-fulfilling prophecy.
yeah. Now, if there's there's some people have an appointment to live to be 100, and some people have an appointment to go sooner. And there's actually no, statistically, there's no great advantage in living past 70. It's usually
Mhm.
physically painful, and most people die after a very long time in the hospital. Only 10% of people ever need an ambulance, and they're going to get the quick way.
Right.
So, it's going to happen. I can tell you
Yeah,
that.
yeah. My mom
But
worked
you
as a
want to
hospice
get
nurse.
everything that
That
you want
Thanos
to
is not
get
as
done,
nice.
done
Right,
now while you have your wits about you. If you
right.
think you're going to be able to take yourself out in time, you're not. You're going to get dumb. And if you think you're going to be able to, write your memoirs at 80, you're not. You're not going to remember.
Right.
I had a friend who kept his diaries, all his diaries from when he was a child. He was waiting to write his memoirs. By the time he went back there, he said, for one thing, my handwriting is illegible. And for another thing, I had no idea what I was talking about. I didn't remember any of it. And so, what he
Yeah.
did? Cut them up and made paper mache. He made sculptures out of his diaries.
Well, that's
And
a
that's
good
his
thing to do.
memoir. Yeah. You can do an interpretive dance as your memoir if you want. But, get your shit done. If you want to do something, do it.
Yeah, yeah, you gotta be doing it today and not putting it off till tomorrow, right?
And
That's
don't
such a
nobody
heavy
know
point,
when you're going to die unless they're planning on killing you, you
right?
know?
The other thing that
And
I've had, like, clients ask me about that I'm a tarot reader. Yeah, I do have a deep connection with the spirits, but like people come to me asking me about hauntings and the dead all the time. And I'm always telling them, like, I can tell you how you like I connected with my ancestors, but like I'm so connected with the spirits in my place. I don't have any issues. I've never had any poltergeist issues. I don't believe I'm ever going to have them.
no, I haven't.
It's not an
Well,
issue for me. But
when
when
I
people
was a
come to me,
teenager,
mm,
and I was doing too much Christing and not enough antidoting,
right,
that's when you're going to run into that kind of problem.
yeah,
And yeah, I did. I was attracting low level astral phenomena,
right,
and I was getting surlier and weirder, and my mom plucked me, because you know, we're my whole family is a little bit like this.
yeah.
I'm the
You're
more like
Dianic
this, but
witches.
they're a little bit like this.
Yeah.
She plucked me and took me to a hypnotist who did past life regressions and non-demonic depossession. She's a specialist in exactly what I
Mm.
had.
Oh,
And
wow.
I had a few sessions with her, and I learned how to moderate it by myself. She was going to teach me how. She wasn't going to create a dependency and get me coming back. No, she was teaching me how to do it myself. And this has to do with what Reg was saying about tuning your instrument. You
Right.
get to decide what frequency you're running, what notes you're playing, what vibrations you're giving out and pulling in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Energetic autonomy is, and it's going to be what
We get to
feels
write our
good, not what
melody.
feels good your glutton self, but what feels healthy.
What we want to do is write our own distinct melody within the rhythm, within the
Yes.
heartbeat of the Great Mother. Once you
Yeah.
recognize the heartbeat, now you can stand out and harmonize.
We're
You can
so
play,
different from each other. We're
right?
all the same, and we're so different. As
Right,
was in massage therapy, I really learned every interior landscape is utterly unique.
right,
Your voice, your song, no one else can sing it. Nobody.
right. Yeah, you touched enough bodies that you would know everyone's different,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But a lot of people though they struggle with that dealing with the ancestor spirits and having this, especially with loved ones who are lost and who have died. Like I'm sure you must get those questions all the time because I get them all the time.
Yeah.
And I usually, offer them psychological support and tell them to put out, something to the ancestors. How
Well,
would
there's a
you
lot of coaching involved because
right,
none of us really have an idea how much other people want our approval.
right,
And so
right.
there's a lot of approval that people are asking for. Am I a
Yeah,
good enough dancer? Am I a good enough writer? You know,
right. That's so
and
true.
yeah, and of course you are. Yeah.
Right. But if I approached you and I was telling you I was being haunted by a spirit, how would you handle something like this?
Well, I would burn some cedar first, and then I would probably burn whatever aromatic plants are growing in abundance that are not running out locally.
Hmm.
Um, and then we would talk about what you've been eating and are you getting enough exercise and what drugs you're on, whether they're pharmaceuticals or see, because sometimes it's Clonopin is the problem. Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
right,
yeah.
right. No, that's a
Like
good point.
people come to me and they can't get in their body and they don't know why and they can't find themselves and they can't hear spirit anymore. And I'm like, what pills are you taking? It's usually Clonopin or something stupid, right? They were
Right.
handing out that when after the opioid crisis, after they killed hundreds of thousands of people with the opioids, they cut that and they got everybody on gabapentin and Clonopin, which fucks with your head, man. It does, and you're not gonna cold turkey. You're gonna have to find an ethical physician who will help you scale down gradually over a period of 3 months. And only after that can we talk about what voices you're hearing.
Right.
Yeah.
Got to make sure you're in a good place first.
First of all, yeah. So we're
Hmm.
gonna start with your body, and then we're and then we're gonna go and then we're gonna go do the whole thing. You got neurons in your guts. You got a gut brain.
Hmm.
You got
Right.
neurons in your heart. You got a heart brain. You got neurons in your head, and we want to tune it right to where it's comfortable for you. And only when you are solid and comfortable in your own body, then we're gonna start. But if you get in the hands, you're gonna want to burn shit in your house. You want somebody coming over and doing all the corners and going around with the water and the smoke and the booze and the cigar and everything. And we can do that over Zoom.
Hmm.
We can, and we do it all the time.
Right.
And
Right.
we get
Yeah,
we
cleansing
get
your
that out of
place is
there.
important.
We get it out of there. I have clients who are real estate agents
Right.
who call me about every single house.
Mm.
I want to get out whatever's needs to get out of there and pull in whatever energy needs to be in there so that this can become somebody's forever home.
Spiritual hygiene is very, very, very important, and,
It's
a lot
really
of
all about that.
people take that for granted.
Well, if you're getting haunted, that's the only thing that's wrong.
Hmm. Yeah,
Now,
you also
okay, it
brought
can
up. Go ahead.
also, then there's also extra. You got
Right.
all that. You're super taken care of. And here comes this crazy
Mm.
shit. Well, then that's extra. And then we go extra.
Right.
But
Because
usually, yeah.
usually it's this kind of thing, but there may be some ancestor who's trying to get in or something, but that's a
Now,
very
if
rare.
you just bought a house and there's an indigenous spirit in there that says you don't belong there, there's nothing you can do about it. You sell that house and you go somewhere else,
Right.
period.
Right. Right. Sometimes you
That's
just
the
don't want to.
only kind of spirit that you can't help along because they belong there. And we don't know what they're doing there, but they're location specific and you're not supposed to be there. So that happens.
Yep.
And that's not the news anybody is wanting to hear. But if it's that, is that. And so there's that. And then a lot of times somebody died in the house or took up residence for some other reason. And most of these spirits are not elevated and they can be elevated.
Right.
And I know how
Yeah.
to do that.
That would be, yeah, so you can actually help them move on
Yeah.
and deal with their stuff, because yeah, so many spirits
And then
are
occasionally you'll
searching.
get someone who's haunted by a perfectly good spirit who is only there to give them love and encouragement and good advice, and they're totally freaked out and terrified.
Right, because of propaganda. Because this is what it seems to be most of the time for me. Right, when I talk, I'm always this is because I my connection with the spirits has always been so positive. So I'm always telling them, it's like, have you tried talking to them? Have you tried offering them a candle? Have you, like little things, like if you're open and you're receptive, that they'll give you signs.
Yeah.
but you have to be in that open, receptive, communicated
Well,
way.
yeah, and also I never stop being surprised by it.
Mm, right.
So the surprise and the awe, the fear is really that. Like anxiety and excitement are so close. It's really just your headspace that is different, right? And
Right.
so, yeah, I never stop. Are you kidding? Oh my god! Right? It never becomes banal to me, and so you're always going to be caught off guard. It's
Hmm.
always going to be a surprise when the spirits speak, when that photo falls off the wall, or when things aren't where you left them.
We got an interesting question here. It says,
Yeah.
I've only experienced poltergeist stuff while near other people, never went alone. General thoughts on this? This makes me think of tulpa type stuff, but what do you think?
What is tulpa?
Tulpas.
What?
Tulpas are a type of egregore thought form. So there's this really interesting anthropological book where these people went
Right
to
away,
Tibet.
I would say, are you a
Yeah.
person that has a desire to work with other people? Could the
Mm,
spirits want to work through you to help other people? Is this somebody else's spirit that is on you? Is it your spirit that is like, tell him to go to the doctor? You know, there could be a predisposition to working with other people in this capacity, and you might want to learn how to
mm,
do that.
right.
Or you might not want to do that at all. And you might want to learn how to have energetic boundaries so that that doesn't happen anymore.
Right. Yeah. The thing with tulpas is tulpas are a thought form that it's like an egregore, but it comes from the Buddhist tradition. And there's this really interesting, I can't remember the book now, but I read it in university. And there's this woman anthropologist goes to Tibet, she learns this stuff and tries to create her own egregore, and she does. Gets it to knock on the door, gets it to, but it only exists when everyone is in the room, when
But I
everyone is
got
together,
enough to do with the
you know?
spirits that are already there.
Yeah. But
I
this is
don't
my,
need to be
but yeah,
making shit up. Now, if I'm
yeah.
doing covert witch ops,
Mm,
like if I hypothetically in my coven wanna like do something around the Bohemian Grove or a particular entity, you
right,
know, I need something else that their guardian spirits are hitting instead of me.
right.
And so in that case, yes, for a purpose, I will conjure a spirit
Hmm.
that is not gonna feel pain.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I understand what you get. The tulpa phenomenon where it gets wild is what this person was claiming is that she believed that people in these intense kind of group fear situations
Mm,
create tulpas. And so often a lot of these poltergeist things that are happening, they only happen when you have the group of people and
uh-huh.
when fear is at an 11, and it's because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You guys are all calling the daimons to come and cause shit, to fuck up your to scare you. And it will that's what will happen. It's like chaos magic servitors. The Buddhists have been doing this for generations. You know, um, servitors and chaos magic are just our spirit, our dime, our thoughts. Because the idea is all thoughts are spirits, right? So
Okay.
if you take a thought and you empower it with a will, and you give it a sigil, and you give it a purpose, now it goes out and it has a life of its own.
I would have to be in a state of mind where I took my thoughts way more seriously than I actually do in order to even begin with that.
Right. It's a total other type of magic that you're not into, but like these chaos guys get
My primary
wild into
training
it.
was Zen Buddhist, where you're
Right.
like thoughts are
Right.
not things, and so
Right.
I had to get used to the thoughts are things is also true.
Right.
But
Exactly.
you want to be careful with that because we're already like you already sound to me like you're talking about something that is not coming from head heart coherence
Hmm. What do you mean?
because you got time for that when you're done listening to what your actual spirits have to say to you.
Right.
And
Right.
they might be telling you, don't be doing that shit. Or they might be telling you, I've been trying to get you to do this for ages. Now, and they have an idea of what it's for.
Mm, right. Right. Yeah, I mean, the servitor magic, that kind of egregore magic is interesting. And I think honestly with the tulpa stuff, it happens most of the time people aren't even aware. People aren't even aware. It's like it's kids do it all the time. They create imaginary friends, create create
Do they?
spirits of a group. Yeah.
Or are they a lot of times talking to a spirit that is there?
Well, yeah, these are things that are there, but they're also, they're daimons that have taken on an image and a creation of the child's imagination. In some,
Okay.
it's they're I had this experience when I was a kid. I used to have these, I had a bunch of these imaginary friends that came around that haunted me in dreams and stuff, and then I learned how to, as I got more into the dream world, all of this energy became really apparent that it was all myself playing with myself,
Uh,
right?
Projections.
um exactly, and it's a subtle difference, because oftentimes I find that the spirits, they appear as projections but they're not. Do you know what I mean?
Well, and people sometimes put this in terms of of angels and stuff like that. But
Right.
if you got a spirit that's telling you you're special,
Right.
mm-mm.
Yeah. Well,
That
this
you're
is this is another
special and
thing.
that you have special powers and that you have a mission and that is not a spirit you want around.
Well, this is the other thing, is that a lot of people need to know, if you're going to start to delve deep into this kind of spirit work, now you're
Yeah.
going to start to deal with, you can run into people. Spirits and people are the same. And so for every shade of
Exactly. And
person,
and
there's a shade
and
of spirit.
and non elevated spirits with an agenda, they can groom you and
Yeah.
love bomb you and all
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And you
And
don't want that.
we see this time in, like the thing like you're talking about too, like you have to invite, with your home and stuff, even with your mind, you have to invite these spirits in. You have to actively engage. So
You got to
these
be
negative,
tuning it to the vibration that is
it's not
pleasant
something
for
going to
you,
happen
that you
overnight.
like, that is
Yeah.
something you actually are going to want to cohabitate with.
Right. But my point is, like, well, you can see people who get possessed by demons and destroy themselves, but this is people who are living in abject neglect and abuse,
Yeah,
and are
this
in
is
that cycle. It doesn't happen
most of
overnight,
the
you
drugs. Yeah.
know? And it's something that's it's a crime against, it's a crime of society as much as it is of the individual at that point, you
What do
know?
you mean?
Well, like there's a very famous example that I think about. Like there's this serial killer named Pazuzu Aljured. I've told you about
Mm,
him before, but he gets
mm,
into satanic magic and
mm.
summoning of spirits from various grimoires and trying to cultivate him into himself. And it escalates over a period of years. It starts off with him dabbling in black magic, then animal sacrifice, then animals that are in his house
We
and
got
excrement in his
some mental
house.
health for to
Yeah,
start with. Okay.
exact. Yeah, but it is.
This is first of
Yeah,
all not getting treatment,
not getting treatment,
and
right?
then all of this is a symptom of
All of
that, right?
this. Exactly. And it's like, and it continued, but there are several points in his story before he starts actually hurting people where he should have been caught for hurting animals. He should have been caught for all of his antisocial behavior.
Yeah.
But, because America is the way America is, no one gave it a care until it got way out of hand, and many, many people got hurt.
Mm.
And I look at this and it's like, this is someone who is clearly suffering, but also someone who dove into that black magic and turned himself into a demon,
Well, that's
over
also your
years.
second red flag after the like telling you you're special and stuff.
Right.
Is if you get a spirit telling you to harm someone,
Or harm
yeah,
something.
you
Right.
got to know that spirit is not your friend.
No,
Yeah.
no. Yeah. And this is the thing. This is the thing. Right. It's one of the, it's wild because on one hand, that Christian tradition has become way too many people are so terrified of the spirits and don't want to work with them at all, and they
Yeah.
have this very negative view, and it leads to a lot of negative magic. So a lot of people who want to connect to the spirits have trouble because they approach it from a Christian lens. They do this kind of
Well,
domination
what
style
happened
of,
first is they shut down the libido.
right,
Your sexuality was demonized first,
right,
and then all the other stuff, one by one, everything about you, right?
hmm,
And so, depending on how your body works, you start this way or you start at the bottom.
hmm,
And liberating your sexuality can blast out all that other noise.
right,
If you're a person that works bottom up, and if you're a person that works kind of, you're gonna want to call in something bigger that can handle that, because you
right,
clearly can't, right? Like we can't handle all this, and we got to call in something else that is bigger and stronger. I'm gonna call Artemis. I'm gonna call Medea. I'm gonna call Christ if I want.
hmm,
Anything, a lot of people have this kind of personal relationship with a Christ. I say a Christ because there are many, and they don't know how to handle that stuff. uh, uh,
right,
Maria Sabina is a spirit who works. She knows how to handle that stuff, and you call something bigger to displace it.
hmm, yeah. I see it. I see so many people, right? They try to engage though from this kind of the grimoire tradition where they're kind of like, it's almost antithetical to your tradition
Listen,
of
I wouldn't
voodoo,
want to hang
right?
out with anybody who want to be my servant unless that's
Yeah,
extra. Sorry.
right,
That's an
right.
hour. That's an extra where I make you lick my boots. That that is not the what I live with, right? That's not
Right,
the vibration in my house. And so you don't really want to slaves, and you really don't want to be anybody's slave.
no,
But you do want uh spirits that you trust.
right, right. Which is why it's so important to be initiated or to have,
Well, and trust
ancestral
develops over
spirits.
time.
Right,
We want the instant trust. That's only going to happen through grooming and love bombing. The instant,
right,
like, oh, meant to be. Don't do that. Trust forms naturally over time with repeated good behavior,
right. What
or
spirits would you
repeated making
recommend?
you laugh, or repeated, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't
Hmm,
have to be good, because lots of us, we're not identified as like good two shoes. It can be repeated intellectual resonance. It can
hmm,
be repeated, somebody calls me on their shit and they're right. One
right,
time, two time, three time, I begin to trust their point of view, you know.
yeah,
And the spirits are no different.
hmm,
And it's the same with like people, how do I get rid of the spirit? The same way you would get rid of some idiot sitting in your kitchen that you don't want them there. You go, it's time to go. Bye.
right,
And you tell them, you show them the door. That's your first line of defense. If that doesn't work, well, then we have other tools. But everybody's got to get up off their knees.
right. Interesting. So someone is asking here about psychokinesis. Have you ever practiced psychokinesis?
Oh, everybody wants to move shit with their mind.
Everyone wants to move shit with their minds. I certainly have never done anything like that, you know.
Oh, I've seen spirits do it. I've seen spirits
Right.
do all kinds of things.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna try to tell anybody I did that.
Right, right, right. I mean, I've had my biggest thing, my main deity, as everyone knows, is Hestia. I like to meditate in front of candles. So I've seen candles go out, I've seen them
But
come back
okay.
on, I've seen them go like this, I've seen them, yeah, do weird things that could it be my mind playing tricks on me? Almost certainly.
Well, it's
But
usually a knock on the door. So you say, what do you say? Who is it?
right,
Come in.
right, you know. And
And then you
I
sit down
have
for tea. You have just like you
yeah,
would do with an old person. You serve them something liquid and something that makes a smoke, and something that smells nice. And you sit down and have the conversation. A tu per tu.
Right.
Not like,
Yeah,
ah, get
that's
out of my house. And not like, what are you going to do if someone knocks on the door? You're going to be like, ah, get out of here. Or you're going to be like, oh, yeah, everybody come in and stay as long as you want. No, be a regular person with a brain. And dead, dead people are really not that different from living people. They're a little bit different. You know, what
mhm,
happens usually if someone is crossing over in a healthy way, they look back over their shoulder and they say, what the hell was all that about? The attachment drops with the body. The illnesses drop with the body. The distorted perspective from a mental illness, it drops with the body.
mm,
They can see around corners we can't see. They can see, get a bird's eye view. They've got a different relationship with time, for example. Um, but it's not because they're magic. It's just because they're dead people, and
right.
they need us as much as we need them, or they wouldn't be coming around.
Yeah.
They need us to do something, or tell somebody they love them, or
They need attention.
deliver
They
an
need
apology they
fire.
didn't deliver, or they have some
Yeah.
geomancy that they need to do for whatever reason. I'm just a little spark plug, and I get that. What happens if I stick it over here? And the goddess just plays with me, and I'm all for it.
Yeah. 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 The spirits, they need our attention. They need they want our connection. They
Yeah.
want our water, our food, and our drink. You
Is
know,
part of the web of life, and it has
right?
us feeling that we are a part of
Hmm.
the web of life.
You know, and I mean, to me, a lot of this is like just look at the universal human traditions. Like you see this everywhere. Everywhere, people are connecting to the spirits and are leaving little things out for them, just out of that thoughtful concern, out of that hospitality. You want to connect to the spirits, be hospitable, invite them into your
And
home.
it depends on the quality of your energy, and you can see it. Sometimes you can see it from an astrology chart. But like my son
Mm,
has this thing where he'll be walking around at night, and the street lamps that are above him will flicker and go out, or just make some noise and go back on. And he just carries this Hephaestus energy. He's a blacksmith. He's a bladesmith,
right,
and he's got this electric relationship, this fire with everything. And uh and he says he's tried to do it on purpose, and it's not the same. It just happens. And I think that's some kind of form of telekinesis. But spoon benders and objects flying around the room, that's usually Snopes, usually.
yeah, usually snow, usually snow, right? Or, maybe there's some mystic living in the Himalayas who can do it, but they so have no interest in doing it, they're never going to
Oh,
bother.
this myth, yeah, this myth. That's a Blavatsky thing. She brought us
Right.
that. The mystic in
I'm
the
just, yeah, I'm
Himalayas,
just
the
joking.
omniscient
The
dude, secretly
the
running a
ascended
devilish.
masters, right? The
Yeah,
ascended masters. She
yeah.
went to Tibet and found Shangri-La and all
I
these
wish.
ascended people. I
Yeah.
wish, yeah. But I do believe that there are, you know, we see this tradition of these people who are just out in the wilderness, who are connected and have the understanding,
Oh
right?
yeah.
The green man of Africa, Lao Tzu of China, Dionysus of Greece,
Yeah. Oh,
right?
and
The wild
I've met
man of the
people
Aryan
who
people,
vanish when they
right?
want to
Right.
pop up
Yeah.
someplace else and stuff.
Mm. So this is a good one. What are your thoughts on using a Ouija board? I asked because I grew up using one with various people on a daily basis and eventually could do it alone. I stopped. Something dark kept interfering.
Yeah,
Yes.
you're not supposed to do it alone. And but that's because that's can get confusing. If you're doing
Mm,
something like that, you want a witness. You want
right.
someone to corroborate your reality. Otherwise, you're gonna doubt it, and the doubt is where is the dark alley, and the on which the lower vibrations can sneak in. I
Right.
love a Ouija board. It's nothing but a spiritualist tapping table. That's
Yeah.
all it is, and it's nice because it gives you physical experience of
Right.
of the spirit being there, and it. I wonder if I would write my novels the way I do if I wasn't trained on that. Because
Mm,
I'm already trained to not know what it's going to say in advance, right? and to put it together anyway. Um, the problem is that, children will go do it in a haunted house looking for all kinds of trouble. Okay.
Right. Right.
And no, you want to do it in your clean house with the tea, and you had a shower, and you've eaten, and you're not looking for trouble.
Right.
And then your vibration, your instrument is tuned to the vibration that you're then gonna want to have at your table.
Right. Yeah.
But there's also a thing about doing your own tarot cards. You can go blind. Telling you.
This all of these myths get so ridiculous, because okay, this is the other thing, right? We're getting into divination here, and this is my kind of forte. Okay,
Mm,
divination is if you bring divination down to its absolute essence, it really consists of one thing and one thing alone, and that is you perceiving the universe. Everything else is
exactly.
not
So,
important.
am I gonna read my own cards objectively,
Right.
or am I gonna not see what I don't want to
Yeah.
hear and see what I want to hear?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
human.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna get my cards done by Snappy. I'm not gonna try to do my own
Right.
cards.
Right. I don't
And I
generally
think
read for
everybody
myself either.
starts doing their own cards. But once you start
Yeah.
doing it for other people, then you kind of lose the ability to do it for yourself.
It becomes cluttered. And you get angry and you don't want to do
You argue with
it.
it and you're like,
Right.
Nope, I'm gonna shuffle again."
Well, well, because okay, so this is how I generally read. If especially I'm reading for it for someone, I look at the tarot, right? The tarot consists of so many different correspondences, right? So generally, there's a key kind of meaning, but then there's also right that intuitive meaning that puts something forward. Okay,
Right. And
so
it can just be a rock that you hold on to while you get these other pictures.
right, right. But like like my intuition will tell me, like I look at something like the four of
Mm,
swords, right?
mm.
This this could be a positive or a negative force,
Oh yeah.
right? Right? Both of these aspects are inherent in the card. So to know whether it's positive or negative, you can kind of tell sometimes when the other cards are present, but mostly that's an intuitive thing. When I'm
Well,
reading for myself,
just
I
the
have a real
binary
hard
reading
time
of the
doing that.
world is like, okay. Also, there do exist spirits that are not elevated that can become elevated through service to you.
Right.
This is not a servant. This is not a
Yeah.
Dobby. This is
Right.
this is someone who wants to do good acts so that they can raise their vibration enough to elevate and move on. They're in some kind of limbo, you
Hmm.
know, and they need you to give them something to do so that they can elevate. That
Right.
happens. And so,
Right.
but if you're seeing it as bad spirit go away, then the evolution doesn't happen.
Hmm. Yeah.
So it all
No, that's
depends.
true. You know, yeah, it's true. I think, the big thing for any of this kind of mediumship, whether you're divining or you're connecting to the spirits, it's that ability to let go and to trust in the other is the massive key. So why I struggle to be able to read for myself is because I get into that critical lens and I can't trust that intuition, right? I see the four of swords and I want it to be positive, like you
But
were
if I'm
saying.
if I'm gonna ask the cards, tell me something I don't know, right?
Right, right,
I'm gonna only get what I know already there if I'm doing it for
right.
myself.
Right, right, right. This is the thing. This is the thing. That's why I find, like, if I'm doing personal divination, the sortes is a lot better. The sortes you can't fuck with, right? You're given a sentence and you just
That's a
gotta
cool
wrestle
one.
with it. You just gotta
Yeah.
wrestle with it.
That's how
You know?
people get around only using the Bible too. Like if the Bible's the only book allowed in your house, do
Right.
sortes. There's every damn thing in there.
Right. Now you can interpret it through any means and like
Yeah.
but you can do the sortes with anything. You can do it with a
Mhm.
receipt. You can do, like you don't need it doesn't need to be the Bible.
Yeah.
Like,
But even when Ammon is experiencing the book is falling off the shelf, he's not
right.
going to try to tell you that he moved that book with his mind. He knows who did it. It wasn't him.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Right, right, right. But this is the most, this is the thing in our kind of a tradition, right? Where we are the magus is the one who communes with the spirits. They're not wielding elemental power. They're they're
Not if
getting
they're
the
your
elements,
friend.
right? They're
Yeah.
getting the elements to uplift them. There's a very big difference here, you know?
Yeah.
Right? The magus is the one who tells their story and gets the spirits to play along, right? They
Yeah.
don their crown and everyone thinks they're a king, and the spirits agree that that's the great idea. The magus convinces the spirits to allow them to be a king. You know,
Wh- I would say that the spirits bring us to the awareness
mm,
that there is no king other than me in my
right,
house. Right?
right, right. I just mean it's this like that self empowering kind of
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
right?
I
You
am
know,
my, if there's a monarch or lording something over me, it's me.
well, I think about it too. It's like, okay,
But I think monarchy is obsolete, and all
oh,
these metaphors are definitely like inculcated, you know.
Yeah, they're inculcated, and monarchy is obsolete for sure, but we can bend them and manipulate them to suit our purposes. So, like when I think
Bend and
about
manipulate what now?
the symbols to suit our purposes, so that we can see them in an empowered light. So, yeah, I don't like kings, but we have something like the tarot, which utilizes kings, and we can see them in a. What I mean by this
Well,
is
yeah,
like,
even in alchemy, the king is the sun, and it's the
right,
metal gold, and the queen is the
exactly,
moon, and it's the metal silver, and these are metaphors.
right. They're
Yeah,
metaphors.
yeah,
So it's
and they
like.
have to do with it's a noble substance.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like in the tarot, one of the big things is becoming the emperor, right? And
Mm.
part of becoming the emperor in the tarot is twofold. You construct the foundation, but you construct the vision. The emperor is the one who gets people to agree, who is
Talking about
able to
statecraft.
exactly, who's able to
Yeah.
convince everyone to build something, right?
Okay.
So much about connecting to the spirits, being a magus is okay. What's your idea, and can you sell it? And not like can you empower yourself in belief?
Okay.
Can you tell a good enough story that the spirits want to uplift you on their wings? They want to carry you. Do you have a good story? That's what I'm getting at, because if you can tell a wonderful story, the universe will make it real. you know they just will.
I have found that there is nothing I can conjure that I can't find discontent with.
Right.
Human desire is very, very fickle.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, with gold, for example, 100% of the time it's quicker just to dig it up.
Hmm.
You know,
Right.
if it's gold you're after, it's quicker to dig it up. You don't need any magic. If you're trying to learn how to manipulate people,
Mm.
it's quicker just to learn how to do that. You don't need any magic for
Right.
that. In fact, that is not magic.
Mm.
That's just manipulating people, you know? So my story is inspired.
Well, yeah. Well, this is the absolute key, right? So this is where you got the difference
It's not
between,
me fixating on something I
yeah.
want and I'm gonna get it. Sure,
Well,
I've done that. And guess
when you
what?
see,
From Christmas to Santo Stefano, those gifts last. You get bored with them and you throw them away.
yeah, but because so in the tarot, the magus, every card is dual. So
Mm.
within the magus, you got two signs. You have the empowered magician, and you have the ass, the
Now,
donkey-headed man,
what you
right?
want is to be nobody's victim and nobody's slave.
But what I'm
And
what I'm
that is
getting
a true magus, is someone
right
that is
is free.
self-sufficient on
Hmm.
every dimension.
Yeah, absolutely. But what I'm getting at too is that, the ass is the one who manipulates other people. The ass is that energy of being in that negative
It's a
aspect
can of
of the
worms, and then you
magus,
wind up all by yourself
right?
because all you have is
Right.
yes men around you.
But the key to not falling into that energy of the ass, right? The negative aspect, the donkey, is to you got to follow your true will, right? You got to imitate the great mother. You got to let the ego go, like you were saying, right? I can
S with
never
a
tell a good
capital,
enough.
self with a
Yeah,
capital S, the
right.
self.
So you tell
Your
your story, but eventually your story merges
is
with
the
the story of the universe.
most refined version of the self.
Exactly, right? When you're living your true will, as Crowley would say, like the absolute true will, you should be fully fulfilled and in your purpose, but also in harmony. So harming none, being negative to none. That's
And
what it needs to be in your true
also
will.
in awe and surprised.
Right, right. In awe and
Because
surprised.
if you're not, you're not gonna be happy.
Oh, so this is a good question. On the subject of stories, have either of you had any really wild recent magical experiences you'd be comfortable sharing? What do you think, Leslie?
Oh, what do you
Anything
mean,
come to
like
mind?
my landlord winding up being named Artemis?
Yeah, that's yeah. You're following the goddess Artemis to Crete, and then your landlord is Artemis. That's sight unseen. That's pretty magical. Getting saved from an imminent war zone is also pretty
Whoa!
magical.
Nobody
You
was more
know,
surprised than me.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of stuff is just so wild. I'm trying to think, have I had any wild synchronicities or any really wild magical moments as of late? Hmm. You know, I want to take in a lot of this stuff for granted at this point. Really, what recently? I'm trying to think. Um, I don't know. Nothing is coming to mind immediately. You know, I don't know. I always have people freak out at me all the time. So one of the issues is that I'm a tarot reader, and people are, so when I'm giving these readings, people are breaking down and crying, and they're
Yeah.
like I just gave a tarot reading last night to a client for a couple hours, and they left going, how did you know all this? How,
Mm.
how did all this, I feel so, thank you so much. Thank you so much. That was so magical. And I'm here completely dumbfounded.
Yeah.
I have no, I'm like you understand completely.
Yeah.
Like you said, when you're in this kind of divinatory mode, it's not for me. It has no meaning for me.
Yeah.
So I
Exactly.
need the client to tell me what you got out of it. But I'm awestruck by it. I'm like, yeah, I'm glad that you appreciated the reading and it was amazing
Yeah.
and that it resonated. But I'm just telling a story as it came to me. So
Yeah.
when that, but my client was crying her eyes out.
Mm.
Was that's
That's
always just
good.
a wild thing to experience. It's one
Well,
thing,
and also
you know,
that somebody maybe just needs to cry,
yeah,
and I've had clients fall asleep during sessions,
right,
and
yeah,
maybe they just needed to sleep, or maybe their spirits need to take them out of the equation to move the energy in the body they needed to move, because they were
right.
too locked up.
Right. Right. But I mean, I've also had people just like throw it in my face and be like, everything you said was wrong and false and storm out. So, you
Oh,
know,
oops.
right. But I just go, the
Not a
block is
good
clearly with
match.
you,
Yeah, not
person,
not a good
you know?
match.
But you meet those skeptic types, they come in and then they have a self-fulfilling prophecy, and you go, okay. So you came in angry, determined that this wasn't going to resonate, and you left angry, determined that it didn't resonate.
That'll
All
happen
right.
occasionally.
Yeah, not often. This
No.
happened. It happened to me when I was working downtown in the city I was living in, because you get all these tourists and I wasn't charging a lot of money, and so people are doing it on a whim, and they're like,
So they don't
"Prove me,
expect it to be
prove
worth
me."
very much, is what
Right.
happened. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And there are also people who come on over to clean themselves off on you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'll happen.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that happens all the
You
time.
gotta have
Well,
boundaries. Real ones.
people just get, you know, I don't know. People get
The
so,
state of us. We're especially in the last few days, folks are in a state. So
you know, you know, okay. I mean, there was some, as a like fluid person, right? Various times I'll present more femme, and there were times in my life when I lived very, 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 very femme, And the kind of reactions that I would get would just tell me everything about society, you know, because you get it. I would get it all. I get it all. Like I had one time I'm in a quickie, okay, and an old man pulls me over to the side crying and tells me he's so thankful that I can be myself. And it's very clearly to me that this person is probably trans and never ever got to live
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
trans. And
Yeah.
they're freaking out just at the fact that I get to be. And then I have had the exact opposite happen, where someone literally freaks out, runs across the street, and tries to assault me in broad daylight. No, how dare you exist?
Mm,
No, what the hell is wrong with you?
mm,
This is the absolute evil, you
mm.
know? And so it's just like, and you know, and you understand this too as a woman going into older age, right? Because women are so marginalized and are so neglected, like you become invisible. Um, but like
Or a
when you,
target for
yeah,
everybody's grandma protection, you know.
right, right, you get, yeah, you get the exact opposite, where like a trans person or a non-binary person is like a walking magnet for everyone's anxiety, you know.
Well, and
An
some of
elderly
us have
woman is
catalyst
ignored.
energy. Some of us can
Right.
walk into a room, shit starts happening.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, there's transformation occurring, and you're like, don't mind me. You didn't say anything. You didn't do anything. You know, it's just your energy.
This is me.
And
I'm
so
the
you
kind of
want to be. This is what I would consider a magus. Is someone who can
right,
rein it in and stay in their lane
right,
when it's time to do that, and
right,
also let it rip when it's time to do that.
right. I remember, you know, like I don't know. I've always had this issue. I'm the kind of person who I set off the dude bros. You know, I go into a room and then these guys will just be set off and they'll want to freak out
Bitch,
over
somebody
me.
has to.
You know, it's ridiculous. But you know, I've seen the opposite too. Like I was really good friends for a long time with this guy Gordon, who was like the most intense heavy metal guy, you know, like the giant beard, the big buff, and just like very stern in his teddy bear, but very stern in his appearance. But like you, people would just like freak out and try to assault him. It's like you're the biggest guy in the bar. I
The
got to pick a
time.
fight with you.
Yeah.
You know, he'd go in and he'd ask people questions, and people would take it as like he's trying to throw down and start a fight.
Or is
And
it
you,
his spirits telling him you don't need to be in a bar?
right. Maybe. Yeah. I
Mm.
think a lot of it is mirroring, it's projection, it's how people see each other.
And it's the noisy people that you notice,
Yeah.
and they want you to take them home with you, and you
Right.
go home and you're still thinking about it, you know. But that fella who thanked you for giving him permission to exist,
Right.
there are a lot of people like that who don't say
Yes.
anything.
Yeah. Yeah. So many.
Yeah.
So many. This is the reality. Right?
But
It's wild.
that's what happened because you're committed to presenting a different version of masculinity. You're
Hmm.
committed to opening this door for people. You want to convince people that they can create. Like
Right.
this this is you. This is what you came here to do. And some people are gonna like it and some people aren't. And you certainly don't need their approval.
Right. But it's just so wild, you know. I've always been such a polarizing character.
Yeah,
And
when I
because
was
of
younger, people
yeah,
thought it was about my sexuality. Everybody thought I wanted their man, and I guarantee you I don't.
right. Yeah, you had no desire for any schlubby men.
But I have my mom and my grandma, and they would always say, "Don't let them turn you into a prude," and you know, uh, if you tamp down your sexuality, then you tamp down your creativity, and pretty soon you tamping down your love, and then you're not doing what you came here to do.
Right.
So you don't let
Right.
anybody turn you off.
This is a thing that I find is kind of a difficult thing. It's like, you know, I was talking to some people before about trying to find your true will, you know, because it's sometimes it's the path of least resistance, but sometimes it's the path of most resistance. How do you
Mm.
recognize where you're meant to go? right? How do
Because
you
the
connect
spirits
to the
aren't ever
spirit?
going to tell me to do something easy. I can tell
Right,
myself to do something easy. I don't need them
right,
for that. And
right,
they're not going to waste their time. So they're going to tell me something that is just like right at the limit of, can I do that?
right,
Can I have that? Am I allowed to want that? Th- This it's an expression. It's always it's going to be work.
right.
Nobody
Yeah.
carried 6 bags across the planet for me. I did that.
But there's also something about, you know, there is this thing too, like um part of our part, you got to know what you also got to follow and do what works well for you, which you find not necessarily easy, but rewarding and
You want
fulfilling.
ease and you want the absence of struggle.
The
Uh,
absence of struggle,
yeah.
right?
But
But yeah,
hard work is going to feel good. Struggle
yes,
doesn't feel good later. It just feels
right.
depleting, right?
If you're up against a wall and the universe is telling you no, maybe you need to change your course, right?
Yes.
But if there's a struggle and they're still dangling you the reward at the end, maybe you need to work harder for the reward, But if there's
Indeed.
no reward and you're being denied,
Mm,
this is why it's hard. It's so personal.
yeah.
I don't know.
Well, now that I'm no longer breeding age and I'm not hypnotized by my own estrogen, it's a lot easier. I can tell you
Right, right, right. Well, you're in a different life stage now, right? You're
that.
in that stage where you're supposed to be in the spiritual pursuit,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it
So,
was weird before. Now it's like kind of normal. Yeah. Yeah.
but okay, we should start winding down here, Leslie. Is there any last things you want to talk about in terms of, anything we've discussed or anything you've been thinking about?
I think it's really a time for simple things, for handmade things, for home cooked food, for clean water and a relationship with fire, also campfire or some kind of even a hibachi on your balcony. When we come in to contact with the elements, it just automatically cleans things. If you have an actual fire, you might not have to spend so much on incense. You know what I mean? You
Right,
get right in touch with it, and 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 quiet. Make some time for quiet in your mind. And if you sit with your spirits, could be 30 days in a row, they don't say anything, and that's good, you know. But keep
right.
keep doing it. Like you said, practice, and we're wired for this to communicate with the trees and the rivers and the mountains, these things that are actually real,
Yeah,
so that we
that's
don't
such a
get
good
haunted
point.
by this, as you call it, egregores, these
Right,
other people's thought forms that would like to absorb our energy and our desires and make us think we want things that we never wanted in the first place.
right. Disconnect from the egregores and the thought forms, connect to the earth and the
Yeah,
trees and to
yeah.
the animals, to the rivers. Go back to
And
what is
I
simple.
used to suffer from suicidal depression. If I can be
Mm,
happy, you can be happy, and I'm happy. So
that's beautiful.
you can have anything that is going to be healthy for you. And
Right,
hopefully, you have spirits who will keep you from getting what you really didn't want in the first place that you think you want. You know what I mean?
right. Hopefully, they'll keep you on track and they'll pull you
Yeah.
away from the bad stuff.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Sometimes, we have to
You
remember
got to trust you're
oftentimes
not
that,
alone.
yeah, we have to remember too that oftentimes when the towers fall, we often freak out, but the tower means that they're pushing you into a new direction. They're bringing in new opportunity and innovation. They're challenging you. And yeah, here's the thing, we all have to be in that constant state of flux. all life is change, and as soon as we stop changing, then the spirits are going to scream at you.
And right now, this is system collapse. These are systems
Yeah,
that deserve to collapse, and
yeah,
we have plans. We already
yeah.
have plans for the new communities and the new healthy water and healthy food that we can provide for each other, and that we have to have compassion because the most vulnerable will suffer as the infrastructure suffers and falls. But this is ultimately this is life happening, this is evolution happening, this is growth happening. We don't need these crazy people running our economies and our lives anymore, and so
No,
these systems deserve to fall.
yeah, yeah. We needed, you know, turn the phone off after this maybe and go touch grass if you can.
Mhm.
Spring is here, right? Now's
Drink
the
some
time.
water.
Drink some water.
I
Beautiful.
think that's it.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. All right. Well, with that, everyone, I think we're going to wind down here and call it an evening. So, thank you guys so much for joining. Um, Peace and love to everyone. If you're interested in working with Leslie Selene, if you would like to book her for spiritual guidance or for medium work, you can email her leslie.celine at gmail.com.
Or it's
And,
Yahoo's
oh,
better.
sorry, Yahoo, sorry, yahoo.com.
I have the
I s-
Gmail too. I just don't check it as often.
Yeah, yahoo.com. The email is in the description. So really, really appreciate you guys. And
And Sunday we'll be talking about the alchemical process, which is I'm gonna put it in as simplest terms as possible. It's something everybody can do. Is you get on top of your own creative process, so life isn't just happening to you; you're happening to it.
beautiful. I'm so excited. I was looking at the slides. We got some beautiful art, some wildness coming, and we'll be all learning some great magical techniques. So make sure you tune in Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern for that. So thank you so much, Leslie. Peace
Thank
and
you,
love to
dear. Love
everyone.
you.
Love you. Take care. Bye, everyone.